Now we move on to our final keynote 6, shifts in testing services and digital drivers behind these shifts. And I'd like to invite on stage Ms. Anupama Jayakumar, Director of Schneider Electric. She is a BE Computer Science, PGPM from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. She's got 18 years of experience in IT services, and her roles included academia, unit operations, client account management, program management, people leadership, service line leadership, and she's very passionate about concept development and performance coaching. A big round of applause to Anupama Jayakumar.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm between... That's okay, I'm going to... Okay, use this.
Tag.
That's okay. Can you hear me well? I thought I really didn't need this. No? Better now? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anupama Jayakumar, and I know I'm between the grand finale and the rest of the evening, so I'll keep it very simple and very short. Before I introduce myself, let me start with a quick quiz, right? Just to see if you know about the company that I come from. How many of you all, can I have a show of hands? How many of you all know about the Naya Raipur Smart City success story in India? The Naya Raipur? Okay, so if you've not heard of it, I urge you to definitely go look it up. It's one of the first smart cities of India. And my company, Schneider Electric, is behind the success. So we're one of the global leaders in energy management and automation solutions. We have loads of concern for the planet. This basically, it's demonstrated in all the responsible automation solutions that we have. So with that, let me get started with today's session. I'm Anupama Jayakumar again. I lead the Global Monitoring and Test Automation Center of Excellence for Schneider Electric. Let me just bring that up. All right, and my topic today is digital drivers that are causing shifts and trends in testing. I would like to start with the future of testing. And it's very important that we understand that we are in a very dynamic ecosystem today where there's a lot of digitalization. There's a lot of flux. And I believe all of you have heard of the word VUCA, right? Which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So there's a lot of that today because it's very dynamic. And if there's one thing that's constant and creating a steadiness for the VUCA, that's definitely the testing, the test assurance that each one here is actually contributing towards. I'm a big proponent of always answering why before I start doing something new. And just on the lighter note, I have a little one who's 8 years old, and I've encouraged him to ask the question why before he does something. And because of this, I'll have to deal with a daily in the morning, why do I have to get up so early? Or why do I have to go to school? Or why can I not play longer? All conveniently crafted sentences. But nevertheless, I'm a big champion of answering the question why. And here I think before we get any further, we should answer two questions of two whys. The first one is, why is testing, what is the continued? Why is testing still important? Why is early and timely testing important? And I think we should talk financial impact, right? There are a lot of variations of the statistics in the internet, but the truth is, if there are defects in development and UAT, and the cost of fixing those defects is X, if the same defects are discovered in production, the cost of fixing them is close to 10X. So that's a huge impact, and we as the testing fraternity are really responsible or responsible for the cost of avoidance. So that's one of the biggest whys that we should answer, why we should be proud of our jobs and why we should be proud of the work that we do, because it's so important from a cost of avoidance standpoint. The next question, or the next why, is basically the digital business models that are evolving around us. And if you look at the Gartner definitions of what is digitization, I think it's very simple. It's taking from analog to digital, right? And we have examples in front of us like e-books and GPS. But in between, we have the digital transformation that's causing the entire shift of digitalization, and which is what is really driving us to think differently from a testing standpoint, evolve from a testing standpoint. So what is digitalization? It's the use of digital technologies to change business models, provide new revenue and value-producing opportunities. It is the process of moving to digital businesses. And examples, of course, e-commerce, IoT, the Uberization, examples are plethora, right? So now we've answered why, and let's look at some of examples of, what are some of the new digital models that are causing new revenue streams, new customers, and new segments. Examples could be real-time customer journey insights that could be capitalized, into, new revenue models, new customer base through mobiles and different devices that we use, connected devices and edge control, and insights from big data and AI, like, through IoT that can cause new revenue streams. New payment models leveraging cloud, API-based economy that's, through open innovation and crowdsourcing that's changing the way we do business. And of course, we have the 5 digital drivers that's enabling the shift, and it's bringing in new development methodologies that is really forcing us to evolve as a testing, service or a testing methodology, so that we can keep at pace and we can support the digitalization. So what are the 5 drivers we have? We have agile methodologies. So we always complain, right? Testing is at the last leg. The news is the leg just got shorter, and we really need to deliver the same quality in less time in a more methodical manner. Customer at the center of everything. So I have a simple question for you all. There is, average statistics published in the internet. Do you know what is the average time to uninstall any application if the customer is not happy? Average time to uninstall? Just want to take a guess. Can you just be a little louder, please? Okay, less than 1 minute. Any other guesses? Very close. It's about 6 seconds. That's all it takes to uninstall and discard an application if the customer is not happy with it. So it's about UX, it's about navigation, it's about accessibility, so many different things that basically comes in the way of, whether the customer really wants to use it or not. And it, testing these applications to make sure that its performance is good. There are so many different elements that ensures that customers are not discarding applications. So device diversity. The explosion of devices, the variety of mobiles. I think outside we have some brilliant stores, the stalls that are set up here that display the different devices, the permutations and combinations of scenarios that we have for testing. We have big data and AI. And what's important here is it's not about, just leveraging big data and AI to give more value-added testing, but it's also about how do we test big data and AI. So there are different elements involved here. So these are about the digital drivers. And I'll come to this slide after I've discussed the next slide, because I think this is the crux of where my thought lies. So in Schneider, basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to, because we are on a huge digitalization journey with our IoT-enabled products, and we're making shifts from digitization to digitalization. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand what are the different elements of testing that support digitization, and what are the adjustments or shifts we need to make to support digitalization. And one thought I want to leave you here with is we're not expecting 100%, a 180-degree turn to move towards, what's on the left from my left. It's basically using diligence and method to understand, proportion of how much do we shift, when do we shift, what do we adopt, which of these shifts do we adopt. So that's, I think, the key, and I'll get to the readiness slide once we've kind of, gone over this very, very quickly. So we're used to testing everything, but we really need to change that, and we need to leverage analytics, AI, and ML, and test, really what's impactful, and, get into risk-based testing. So minimalist testing, very, very important. At the same time, we cannot risk our product or solution. We need to ensure that we've tested what really needs to be tested. So there are a lot of AI models, analytical models that comes into play now. They're inbuilt in products, which enable us to turn this on very, very diligently to make sure that we're not testing the whole plethora of NRT test suites, but we're testing really what's important. Defect detection, I think we spoke a lot about it. Our primary responsible is to find all of those defects and reduce defect leak to production. However, as a testing fraternity, I personally believe that we should start thinking a little different, start leveraging AI and ML and see how we can enhance the value back to our development fraternity. How can we predict defects? Right? And today we've been supporting applications for many years now. So we have a lot of data. We have data about requirement traceability. It could be about defects. It could be about tickets in production. So it's about bringing all of that data together, coming up with some mature AI models that can predict defect density in a particular module, even before the development has started. So you can imagine the quantum of value that we would be giving back if we can predict some defect density even before development is started. Right, and that will really help the development fraternity to kind of get a heads up, start focusing on really what's, probably put in a lot more peer reviews, code reviews, make sure that certain modules are, well coded, better than what they would normally do, not in a hurry, and those kind of things are well planned. And all of this basically ensures that, we've put in the right focus at the right place. So these are a couple of shifts that can be driven by AI and ML and analytics. And the last few are basically driven by agile and customer at the center, where testing everything at the end to move everything to the left, right? And I really resonate with what Dheeraj was saying, and this is something that we're very passionately trying to introduce in Schneider. When we have a testing center of excellence, it doesn't have to always have only automation testers. We also need folks that can enable businesses, enable functional analysts to actually stand up their own test automation, and that's when we are generally shifting left. When we are stepping up as test professionals, and we're not saying that we're only good at automating, but we're also able to provide, let's say, a scriptless platform, maybe a low-code platform that can enable test automation for businesses, for functions, and they do not really need to know the underlying technology. So it's a lot of mindset shift, I would say, and we could talk about the readiness as we come along. But these are different concepts that we are piloting very passionately at Schneider, because we really believe that these are the shifts that can really bring about, I would say, power the agile transformations that we're looking at, to power the digitalization in future. Okay, so we have development-based testing to behavior-driven testing. And again, when I say behavior-driven testing, it's like, you're not writing test cases and test scripts, from the eyes of the developer, but you're actually writing it as a customer champion, right? And then regression automation, moving into progressive automation, where you're also able to manage in-sprint test automation rather than trying to do that manually. Again, the last one is my personal favorite, and thanks Dheeraj for reinforcing it so much. Move from automate testing to enable test automation. I feel there's a lot of potential locked up there. If you're able to step up and not only do automation, but actually evaluate, and I think we saw some brilliant demonstrations of that right outside with a couple of the stalls over here. Let's enable the test automation in addition to just automating the testing. And last but not the least, move from on-prem testing to crowd testing, because today when we launch so many global applications that are influenced by local influences such as network, user behaviors, because even cultural attributes can impact user behavior. It's important that we tap into crowd testing. We kind of transfer the risk, and we can actually it's more like an outsourcing of the testing to different locations across the globe, and we're able to get that much more defects that we would definitely not be able to tap in if we do everything in-house. And last but not the least, performance testing to performance engineering, where we bake in all the best practices of architecture, performance earlier on during design, and we're not waiting just before we go live with the performance testing. And I can personally quote examples from this, because I manage both the monitoring and production services as well as the test automation services. And what we're doing today is we are taking insights from APM tools like Dynatrace and App Dynamics, and we are routing them, feeding them back into the designs, into the test case creations itself, because they give such meaningful insights about production that we would otherwise miss if you're not in touch with production. So there's a lot of focus on performance engineering, wherein you plan performance, you plan capacity, infrastructure, everything upfront, rather than you kind of wait till you go live in production. So now I'll go back to the previous slide, because I think a lot of the secret lies in between, which is about the shift. And again, as I said, it's about doling out the right proportions at the right time. It's not about 100% shift in one area or the other. So I'll go back to this slide, because this is my personal readiness, because a lot of times we're in a hurry for adoption. We want to evolve, we just want to get onto the bandwagon, and we don't sometimes stop and think. And I feel these are, they're simple bullets, but in my opinion, that if you really want to adopt these shifts and truly evolve as a testing service, and truly be able to support the digitalization trends, I think the answer lies here. It's the mindset to adopt automation first of all, rather than trying to do everything manually, because if you really want to be agile, the CI/CD pipeline and the test automation baked into that is going to become very critical. The second is my personal favorite again, the mindset to enable test automation rather than just trying to automate ourselves, and that really enables the shift left. And again, when I spoke about AI and ML, tapping into AI and ML models to be able to do defect prediction and those kind of capabilities rather than just defect detection. It's very easy to say that, but data is the key for any AI ML engine to be effective. Do we have all the discrete data? Do we have all the possible data that can be collaborated and joined to kind of give you the right effective model? So do we have the right ITSM processes and systems that collect all the required data? Because I think readiness lies there. If we really want to do defect prediction and we want to do it right, we need to make sure that we are capturing the data, collecting the data, we are modeling the data right, and then we'll, the outcome will automatically follow. So, do we have all the, and again, I personally feel as a testing fraternity and a testing center of excellence, responsibilities towards these very, very important so we can ensure a successful, adoption of the different trends. Adopting agile mindsets, methodology in the true spirit in terms of the tools, the CI/CD pipeline, and last but not the least, the top-down leadership support for all of these bullets I mentioned. So I feel the readiness and the shifts in between is the mantra to all of this. And I personally feel the testing center of excellence and the testing fraternity have to evolve in the mindset in terms of, can we come up with the framework? Can we come up with the framework to manage all of this VUCA? Right? And can we be able to play a recommending or an advisory role that says which flavor of testing do we use for what trend and shift to adopt, how much of this to adopt? These are all very critical questions that I feel a testing center of excellence or a testing fraternity should be able to answer and play an advisory role, and that's how we add the real value. And at Schneider, what we're trying to do is, and again, this is at a very nascent stage, we are trying to kind of categorize or put in quadrants the different applications that we have, front office, back office, into existing new platforms, release and projects. And we're trying to categorize all of these different shifts because we don't want to be left just talking about trends and shifts, but we're not able to advise as to which is the right one, how much of it to adopt. So I think it's important that we come up with a robust framework to be able to manage all of this VUCA and be able to actually add a lot of value in the digitalization trends. So I think the tools come later. It's more about when do we do what and in what proportion, and the tools will automatically follow. So framework is important to be able to kind of wrap over all of the VUCA and be able to add value from a testing standpoint. Okay, so and I think I started with the future of testing. I will also wrap up with the future of testing. And again, what I'd like to emphasize here is the mindset of the testing professionals, right? What we are testing is also evolving. So we have traditionally been testing applications, software, now the entire gamut, the spectrum is widening. So now we have IoT, testing IoT, getting behind IoT and testing that is a completely different game altogether. And as all the eminent speakers before me spoke about the domain knowledge, I think that's so important to be able to, if you want to be successful in all of these emerging spaces, it's important that we learn the domain as well. And of course, getting behind AI ML models and as a tester, how do we test the emotional maturity of the recommendation engine? It's a huge opportunity in itself. And for that also, there's a lot of domain, there's a little bit of AI and ML that we need to understand as a testing community to be able to test effectively and be able to produce defects even in these emerging spaces. And also the predicting test cases. I think we just take for granted all the test cases that we have and then we feel that our life cycle starts from test automation. But in the future, there's a huge opportunity for testing fraternity even in the kind of test case prediction that you can come up with. In all the driverless cars, the autonomous cars, what they're still grappling with is the different test cases that need to be tested. Then comes, is the car able to drive without a driver, right? What are the different scenarios? So I think there's a huge opportunity there. Even it's not just the test automation and performance testing. And last but not the least, with the blockchains coming in, how do you go behind and test the accuracy of the smart contracts? So if you see over here, there are a couple of threads that bind all of this together, which is one is learning. As a testing fraternity, I think we need to be passionate about learning new trends, learning the domain. And of course, the second one is passion for the domain for us to be able to be effective testers and effective test automation engineers. So with that, I'd like to wrap and I'd like to conclude with the beautiful motto that our company comes with. It says, Schneider is on and life is on. I'd like to wrap this session by saying, testing is on, life is on. Thank you very much.